It is great to be here with y'all today, this morning. Last night was awesome. How many of y'all were able to get out to the dinner last night at Mr. Ken Parker's house? Incredible, incredible. I'll tell you what blew me away, though, and I don't know if y'all were just trying to put on a good front because you're at the boss's house or whatever, but y'all are a friendly bunch of people. I've never felt more welcomed just in an environment that I didn't know anybody. And y'all are from all over the country, and yet I still felt welcomed. Again, I don't know, actually, Mr. Allen was the only one. Mr. Allen, he was a little sketchy, you know. I said I ate dinner with him last night, and I'm hearing stories about people. I'm just like, is this what One Life's all about? Because if it is, we might need to do a gospel presentation tomorrow morning and get these people going to church. But no, I was overwhelmed by the fact, just the kindness, the friendliness that was just there. My car ride to the home, the time at the home. So just thank you for what you are, what you're all about. I know this weekend is a time for you to learn, to grow. There's some new perspective people here. This is the first time you're really trying to get a grasp of what this environment's all about. I'm thrilled to be here. I love to give a background on myself. Mr. Scott, you did a great job kind of filling in all the voided areas. But here's my story. I'm from Maryland originally. Most people, as soon as I start talking, especially Mississippi, they're like, you talk a little funny, boy. Like, where are you from? It's like, I'm from Maryland. I know, actually, I'm still below the Mason-Dixon line. That doesn't mean anything to anyone in Mississippi. Apparently, if you live above Memphis, you're still a northern person. I'm below the Mason-Dixon. Okay? I grew up, born and raised in Maryland. At the age of 19, I did commit to the University of Maryland to play college baseball. I love sports. I'm passionate about sports. I thought I was, the next big thing in Maryland, and yet they fired a coaching staff. That's shock to an 18 and 19-year-old kid. What am I going to do with my life? As a young person, you want to have your life planned out. Well, I fell flat on my face. Hill Denson, who founded Southern Miss's baseball program, reached out to me almost immediately when he heard about the coaching staff falling through. And even though they never saw me play, they said, hey, if you come here, we'll pay for your education. I said, sure, why not? Get away from home a little bit, learn a little bit, and I had a great time for 2 years. We went to a College World Series my junior year. My senior year, we were one game from a College World Series. Had a great time there. After my junior year, I had a chance to sign with the Cincinnati Reds and the Boston Red Sox. Both of those opportunities fell through. My senior year was a finalist for the Boo Ferris Award, which in Mississippi goes to the best baseball player in Mississippi. My head was big, and yet as most athletes end up happening, I was humbled because after my senior year, I got no phone call, no additional opportunities, and as the harsh reality of life is, you're nobody anymore. I was a nobody in the sports realm like that. I hit kind of a rock bottom, an identity crisis, if you will, which led me to Mississippi State. I got my undergrad in sports medicine and exercise science. I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. At least I thought I did. So the best way for me to kind of get that experience was to become a graduate assistant. I went to Mississippi State University and got to train every single athlete there in the weight room. Soccer, volleyball, football. Actually, Daniel Parker was one of the first athletes I ever ran into. Daniel doesn't like to tell this story, but Daniel showed up late to weights the very first day I was a strength coach. My very first experience with Daniel Parker was punishing him for showing up late to weights. A lot has changed. I was talking to Daniel last night. He said, that was 20-year-old Daniel. 24-year-old Daniel's a different man. Amen. I hope we are growing through those kind of things in life. I got to train those athletes. I got my master's in exercise physiology, 2 degrees in strength and conditioning, and I felt unfulfilled. Maybe that's a word we can use. I went to my man in my life at the time, Bill Buckley, who you all know very well. I said, Mr. Bill, I've got this kind of burning passion in me to talk about Jesus Christ, and as a strength coach, I'm not able to do that. I mean, I don't know if you've been in an SEC weight room, but the music's blaring, coaches are screaming. Coaches slap other kids across the face to kind of generate this testosterone level. It is chaos, okay? I know One Life's a passionate thing, but you don't slap each other across the face before you go out on mission, okay? It's an intense atmosphere. And so here I am, I'm spotting athletes, and yet I'm hearing the stories they carry in with them about the weekend activities. I would see Division I athletes, top round draft picks, $1 million future kids who would walk in with an identity crisis. I worked with Olympic track runners, some of the fastest, most talented young athletes in America, and I would see the insecurity all over their face. And as a strength coach, you can't enter that void and say, well, let me tell you about the void that can fill that space. Let me tell you about Jesus Christ. I couldn't do that as a strength coach. So I went to Bill Buckley. I said, Bill, find a way for me to bridge that gap. He said, what about FCA? Well, what about FCA, Mr. Bill? Tell me about it. He said, this is the one platform in America where you can merge faith and sports and make it mesh. This is now my third year with FCA. As a 19-year-old kid, I came down to Mississippi because I just wanted to play baseball and I wanted to get drafted. It's now been 6.5 years later, and I'm still stuck in Mississippi. I'm engaged, so I don't know when I'm going home again. The South has got me. The South has got me. A lot of people like to ask, okay, what is FCA all about? Very simply put is this: I'm passionate about two things in this world: Jesus Christ and athletes. Okay? Now you might think to yourself, well, this ain't church, and I'm not an athlete. True, and definitely true for some of y'all. You know what I mean? Like, so how do we fit under that scope, Jimmy? We don't fit into that category of church or athletes. Well, here's the thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit today, but my purpose in life is Jesus Christ, and y'all fit under the banner of that purpose in life. I like to take my past experiences, my flaws as a leader, my flaws as a young man trying to figure stuff out, my experiences working with some of the top coaches in Division I athletics, dealing with ego like you've never seen before, and share those things and try to help us grow. FCA on a daily basis, here's what my job looks like. I meet one-on-one with athletes all across Mississippi State University. Young men come to me with their relationship issues. We talk relationships. The young men come to me about family issues. We talk about family issues. We talk leadership. We do all kinds of things one-on-one with those athletes in Mississippi State, in addition to 12 counties that surround the area. So on a daily basis, I'm driving from high school to high school to high school, looking for coaches who are searching, looking for high school kids who are searching, and I put them face to face with Jesus Christ. FCA is not the answer to life, but I believe Jesus Christ is the answer to life. I think I have the greatest job in the world. Get to work with athletes. I get to fundraise. Now I know what y'all are thinking, like, okay, so FCA, in a sense, it is a sales thing. I fundraise. With 2 degrees in exercise physiology, guess how much coaching I got in fundraising? 0. I remember the first time Bill's like, now Jimmy, you're going to have to raise a year-long salary before you can come on staff with FCA. I was like, oh, how much we talking, Mr. Bill? He said, oh, about $80,000. I said, oh, no, sir, that is not for me. I'm a strength coach. I yell at people. I don't ask for money. Help me. FCA sent me to a thing they call boot camp, a week-long training seminar, probably very similar to this, where they teach you how to fundraise. And I rode from car to car, went cold called people, just showed up at doors and shared the vision of FCA. And let me just say this, fundraising is one of the most fun things I get to do. And now, those of you who understand the purpose and the heart behind One Life and your other organizations, you get it. Because when you buy the vision of something, it's a pleasure to share that with somebody. And the same thing for me, Jesus Christ changed my life. Why would I not want to share that with somebody? Why would I want to withhold an opportunity to partner and invest in kingdom business? I love it. That's my job on a day-to-day basis. I realize we're not all from the South down here. We're from a different kind of different cultures and dynamics, but most of you are probably from the South. Question I get all the time, and this is just a chance for you to get to know me a little bit before we dive in. People always ask, Jimmy, what's the biggest differences between the North and the South? I love answering those questions because let's be honest. Hey, the South is a special place, but it's different. Okay? Here's the differences in the North and the South. You go up north, I know we've got a lady from New York here. You go up north, and people are as blunt can be. Borderline rude. Like, if they don't want Jesus, guess what they say? We don't want Jesus. If they don't want your life insurance policy, guess what they say? Don't need it. You can leave now. And no one gets offended because you just handle business. You just share truth with one another. You use your horn on your car. Hey, people in the South, you've got a horn on your car for a reason. It's to honk at people when they cut you off or when they don't yield to you. Honk your horn. The light turns green, honk your horn and go. Okay? Up north, people are they're just a little bit more aggressive. They're on edge all the time. But you come down south, and you get the, oh, bless your heart, bless your heart. She's just a little bit slow, bless her heart. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't really know Jesus that well, bless her heart. That's the South. We don't get all those bless your hearts up north. If something's wrong, you say it's wrong. Sometimes when I speak, I get, well, Jimmy, you were a little bit too direct. Sorry. Not trying to be rude. That's just kind of what I grew up underneath of. It's just, if something's on your mind, you say it. So I try to use wisdom in that now. I've had to grow through that. Use the wisdom. Try to read people, not step on toes too harshly, but kind of operate under the freedom of, hey, if you got something on your mind, let's use it and speak about it. I love the South because people can cook. Amen. Last night you got a little bit of taste of that. People can cook. I don't care. It's an 85-year-old man, a 16-year-old kid, a 35-year-old mom. You all can cook, and I love it. I love the fact that you guys love to eat. I don't need to bring up the statistics that support that, but the people in the South, they love to eat. Amen. The sweet tea is out of this world. But my favorite part of the South is the accents. Okay, I remember the first time a young lady walked up to me and said, Jimmy. I said, say it again, girl. Say my name again. I love it. I love Southern accents. Okay, I love Southern accents. And I'm engaged. I'm marrying a girl who played soccer in Mississippi State. She's a few years younger than myself, but she loves the Lord. She's passionate, and she's awesome. Okay, that's my story kind of in a nutshell. But to summarize those differences in the North and South, it brings us into these concepts of leadership. Because by and large, when I look at the South, and this is harsh, Jimmy, about to come out, so don't judge me, okay? Sunday mornings, churches are packed in the South. Y'all know that. Presbyterian church, it's packed. The Baptist church, it's packed. Non-denomination, packed. Episcopalian, it's packed. Churches are packed. But guess what also is packed in the South? Our bars on Friday night, right? Or even the clubs on a Saturday night. Where we fall in the last place categories of almost every major statistic that means something in the South. The social issues that exist, it takes you back. It's like, how can we be in church so heavily on Sunday mornings, but then the rest of our lives look like chaos? It brings us that's leadership. That falls under the category of a leadership or lack of leadership. And here's what I found. We talk about leadership, not just to our sports teams all the time, not just to our businesses all the time. We talk leadership, but we have so few leaders. Why is that? Well, because leadership is a value. And you can't just throw a value on somebody and expect it to stick. I can put that on my team principles like, hey, we're going to be a team full of leaders. And yet what happens is about 7 or 8 of those kids get kicked off a team. I can't throw a term leadership on you and expect you to be leaders. I can't throw the word integrity at you and expect you to live a life with integrity. That's a value. I can't throw values on you and expect them to stick. So why are we here this weekend? We're here to learn about leadership. We're learning how to be transformational people. How is this business different than another business? Before we segue into that, I want to bring my attention to 3 leaders that mean a lot to me. Bill Buckley. We've talked about him already this morning. The man is a passionate man. Why do I love Bill Buckley? Well, he motivates me like no other person motivates me. Well, you might say, okay, maybe that's what a leader does. A leader motivates people. I've gotten calls Saturday mornings, 7:30 in the morning from Bill Buckley. Jimmy Gilford, are you awake? Yes, sir, Mr. Bill. It's Saturday morning. Why are you calling me? Well, I just want to remind you something, young man. God's got a plan and a purpose for your life. Have a great day. It's like, thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. Bill Buckley is a leader in my life because he knows his identity and his purpose, and he operates his passion under that. Another man in my life is a man by the name of Johnny Buckner. His brother, William Buckner, used to be our state director with FCA. His brother, William Buckner, was also in all conference, all state, everything in football. Johnny Buckner, he's probably the wisest person I've ever met. I sit in Johnny Buckner's presence, and he reads me. He knows me. And he starts telling me things about myself I never knew were inside of me. And I sit in his presence, and I'm like, wow, you're wise. Wisdom is one of those attributes that's part of a leadership team, a part of a leadership. My dad, he's been a leader in my life. My dad taught me work ethic. Hey, leaders got to have work ethic. 4 o'clock in the morning, if you were to go into my house right now, you would hear an alarm clock go off. It's my dad's alarm clock every single morning since I was a kid. His alarm goes off. A few minutes later, you hear the basement door open up, and you hear the weights in the basement start to clink together. I remember about 4:15 as a kid, I would always get waken up to the screams of a madman in the basement and weights clinging together. I'm like, who are you trying to impress, Dad? It's just us in the house. We get it. You're a man. I get it. About 5:30 rolls around, though. I come downstairs, and my dad's sitting in his recliner, and he's reading his Bible. He did this every single day. He taught me work ethic. He taught me discipline. He taught me about making a family a priority. He taught about providing for your family, but also being at every family event. These men taught me those principles, but just like leadership, wisdom, motivation, work ethic, they're all values that I can't just throw on you and expect you to obtain. What I love about Coach Joseph, what I love about this session and this weekend, is we get a chance to motivate and push you towards leadership principles. We get to do that. We get to get energetic speakers, great presentations, great slideshows, and motivate you. And here's what I found the thing about motivation is. Motivation usually lasts until about the parking lot. And then about the time you get in your car and start driving away, you've just cut somebody off again. You just flipped them off. You just did all these things. I thought you were motivated to be a better man. I thought you were motivated to be a top sales rep. And about a week later, your motivation's disappeared. My goal today is not to motivate you. And I don't think the purpose of this week is here to motivate you. Because motivation is a fleeting emotion. What I think the goal of this thing is this. It's heart transformation. We do a lot of things in church that I call behavior modification. And we do a lot of even leadership conferences, behavior modification. Hey, you know what you need to do to be a better salesman? You need to work harder. You need to get out of bed on time. You need to set yourself goals. And we attain all the behavioral things that we want to obtain to, but we never address the issues of the heart. And I've said this a lot of times. If you try to address the behaviors, but you don't address the heart, you're going to spin your wheels the rest of your life. You want to talk about heart transformation? There's two men in this room. They don't know I'm going to call them out, but Scott Watkins is one. Scott's a sales rep from the Madison area. Scott's the man. I've known Scott for 5 years, coached his son for a period of my life. Scott was actually my first donor with FCA. He might not know that, but Scott's the man. I love Scott. But I was hearing some stories last night from Alan. I don't know if Scott wants to know about some of these stories, but I was hearing stories. And I kind of said something jokingly to Scott last night. I said, Scott, I'm hearing stories, man. He said, hold up. That was BC. I said, BC? He said, yeah, that was before Christ came into my life. You see, Scott didn't just wake up one day and change the man he was. He didn't go to this moving conference and say, I'm going to be a better leader. I'm going to be a better husband. And then just wake up and do it. Scott experienced heart transformation. He didn't just change his behaviors. He let Jesus Christ change his heart. Brandon, you're probably not going to know. I'm calling on you. He's going to share his story tonight. I'm not going to steal the thunder. But Brandon was telling me some of his story of the past that he came out of. He didn't just wake up one day and say, I need to be a better man. I will be a better man today. Guess what would have happened if he would have done that? He would have fallen right back into the same habits. Brandon experienced heart transformation. The purpose of this function is not for you to change here and become better leaders. It's for you to have a heart change that would move you to be a better leader. Y'all tracking with that? If I had to guess with one life, the reason they do this is not because they even want you to be great salespeople. I would say the reason they do this is because they want you to be men and women of character. That you move through your families with a passion, not just for one life in sales, but for their family, for your kids, the kind of mom and dad you're going to be. When your name comes up in conversation, the thought process isn't, what a sales guy. I would hope that's not what's said of you. I would hope that what's said of you is, man, yeah, what a sales guy, but what a leader. What a father he is to his son. What a mom she is to her kids. Heart transformation is the goal of this weekend. You all have a platform of influence. Amen? And a lot of people don't realize that you all have a platform of influence. You might say, well, Jimmy, I don't get to travel like you do with FCA and get to promote Jesus, and I don't have this great platform. You talk to hundreds of people every day, starting with your spouse, starting with your kids, starting with your coworkers, the people that see you every day. You've got a platform of influence. And the goal for this is to use your platform of heart transformation to do incredible things. Not just to up the ante on your sales record, but to change a culture, to change a work environment. You have a platform of influence. I know there's some competitive people in this room. When we start talking about performance and sales reps, and this is going to kind of segue us into the real purpose of this morning's talk, there's some competitive people in here. And I see the things that they put out on Instagram, like each week, the week top sales rep of the week, top sales rep of the month. And that kind of those things that kind of inspire you to go on. All right, I'm going to wake up today. I'm going to fix my eyes on getting this award, right? I got to push myself. I got to work hard. As athletes, that's what athletes do. As business people, that's what you usually fall into the rut of trying to outdo your former self, trying to outdo your best thing from last week, outperform yourself. And we go in this crazy cycle as successful businessmen of outworking the old us. If you ever realize some of the top-selling books in America are self-help books. Like, get better abs in 6 weeks, right? Like, we love those kind of books. Or become a better dad in 7 easy steps. We love self-help books because you and I are constantly looking for a better version of us. We're trying to clean up our image, lose a little bit of weight, learn these skill sets to make us better leaders. And then once we get that thing, it's on to the next thing. And we set these goals trying to improve the version of us. I love weight loss. You know, as a strength coach, it's one of those things I love when people kind of buy into getting in shape. And yet the reality is that's a never-ending battle because you start working out, you got a couple abs showing. You're like, okay, I got my abs showing. And then it's like, well, I don't have my bottom 2 abs showing. Okay, then you got to work hard to get those abs showing. Okay, but I'm not really like squatting like I want to squat. Like, it is this impossible thing to try to clean up your image. And it's something as salespeople, it's something as athletes, it's something as a man that I struggle with. Because I'm always trying to improve the version of me because I like behavior modification. I like the fact that I get to try to change my behavior. I would venture to say that all of us in this room were born with this desire for ultimate satisfaction. Like there's this little longing in your heart, again, for that better version of you, the next best thing in your life. It coincides with the American dream. You can do whatever you want to do. Like you can set the goal and go for the goal. Like there's nothing impossible for you. If you want the better body, go get the better body. You want to be the top sales rep, go work and get the top sales rep. Like we've set these goals. It's the American dream. Be somebody. Do something with your life. That's the goal. That's the dream. And yet that ultimate satisfaction is never quite satisfied. Because you get it. And then for about 2 months, it's pretty cool. And then you get a little bit more unsatisfied. And a lot of us in this room have been chasing that carrot for years. You've been chasing the carrot since you've been in high school and you never really had the sports career you wanted to have, so you try to fulfill it now through business. A lot of us have been chasing the carrot because you've gotten into business and you see the potential that a business like this can take you to, and you chase the carrot. And what ends up happening is that you get worn out and you get run down. That's the first thing that goes. You start working routinely 70 and 80-hour weeks and you're worn out. And after the 70-hour, 80 weeks kind of catch up to you, your priorities start to kind of fall out of place. Instead of having my wife, and then my family, and then my hobbies, and then job, it becomes my job's here, and if I don't get to spend time with my wife, that's her problem. Or if I don't get to go to my kid's game, that's his problem. I got to provide for my family. And our priorities get out of whack, so we're burned out, our priorities are wrong, and then our character starts to fall because we're chasing the carrot of ultimate satisfaction that you're never going to obtain. So here's my question to y'all this morning. And we'll spend the rest of this morning kind of talking through this thing. Why do you do what you do? Why do you work for One Life or the other places represented here today? I realize there's more than just One Life. Why do you do it? Why do you work so hard? Why are you the kind of dad that you are? Why are you the kind of mom that you are? Why? Here's what I'm trying to ask you to. What's your purpose? That's what I'm trying to get you to think about right now. What is your purpose? When you wake up in the morning, what do you lock your eyes onto and run to? That's what purpose is. It's the bullseye at the end of the room that in the midst of clutter, in the midst of distractions that come at me during the day, I lock my eyes on my purpose. That's why I do what I do. You know, a lot of people can tell me their what. They can tell me their dream. And they can even tell me the goals as to how they're going to obtain their dream. For athletes, here's usually what happens. Hey man, why are you here at Mississippi State? Shoot, man, I'm about to get drafted. Okay. And here's usually what I come back with. Awesome, sweet. What happens when you tear your ACL? Did your purpose just go out the window, or are you going to do something? Okay. Why are you here at Mississippi State? Well, I'm here to find Mr. Right. You know what I mean? No, I don't know what you mean. What happens if you don't find Mr. Right? Did your purpose just go out the window there? You'll ask a lot of coaches even. This is the sad part about coaching. Coach, why do you coach? They're never going to say because of the money, because coaches get underpaid most of the time in the high school level. I don't know, another job, I guess. You'd be surprised at some of the answers we get. Why do you play? Why do you coach? Why do you work for One Life? Oh, you can tell me your dream. You can tell me your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, where you want to be in 20 years. You can tell me your what. And you can tell me the goals as to how you're going to accomplish your what, but I'm not interested in your what. I want to know the why behind your what. Why do you do what you do? It's a deep question, isn't it? Theologians have been asking that question since the beginning of time. What's our purpose? Why are we here? And there's going to be hundreds and thousands of different reasons and answers to that. But I believe there is one true answer to that. If we're not careful, the reasons we're waking up every day is because we're chasing ultimate satisfaction, which can never be obtained. You're trying to find your identity in a job that you're never going to find. You're trying to find your purpose and identity as a husband or a wife, and that's not possible. And maybe it's your kids, that's not possible. All of the answers that you would give me, I would have to question you and ask, what happens when that's gone? What happens when that's removed from your life? Did your purpose just go out the window? I want to look at this morning, with FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, right? I brought my Bible with me this morning. I want to look at the life of a man named King Solomon. Solomon, you might not say, Jimmy, I don't really go to church, and I'm not really a Christian. That's cool. Because Solomon is not just a biblical figure, he's a secular figure. His works transcend time and culture of every culture. He's called the wisest man that's ever lived. That's just not coming from Jimmy Gilford, the FCA guy. That's coming from a lot of business owners who use his sayings to kind of operate underneath of their business strategy. And we want to look at the life of Solomon. If he really is the wisest man that's ever lived, I want to try to figure out what my purpose is when I operate out of. I'll say this last thing before we look at his life. Purpose provides traction. When you can wake up in the morning and lock your eyes on your purpose, your life's going to look pretty good. Because you know why you're waking up. Have you ever wondered why so many people walk through life confused? They hop from job to job to job, to relationship to relationship to relationship, to one day I'm going to be this great leader, to the next day I'm down here, and their integrity and their character fluctuates. It's a clear sign of a lack of purpose. Because purpose I lock my eyes on. Purpose doesn't change based on my situation. It's the same and it's consistent. I brought my Bible with me. I love to read this passage out of Ecclesiastes. Now, if you've never read the Bible, here's what I'm going to say. Don't start in Ecclesiastes. A couple reasons. Most depressing book in the Bible. We'll find out in a second. It's depressing, so don't read Ecclesiastes. It's also kind of hard to read. It's written in poetic form, so you might read it and be like, FCA guy, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't get Ecclesiastes. Well, good thing I do work for FCA, because we're going to break it down a little bit, and we're going to try to understand what was Solomon all about. So let me just read the first verse of Solomon to y'all, Ecclesiastes. Check this out. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem. So Solomon was the king of Jerusalem. That means he grew up in the palace. His dad was King David. Okay, he grew up in the palace. Now I'm just going to throw this out there to y'all. You can throw it right back at me if you don't agree with me. Okay, Solomon was smarter and more educated than anyone in this room. If you have, email me if you don't agree with that. Okay, there's some smart people in here. Okay, he grew up with the best teachers in the world. At that time in world history, Israel was the world power. For 35 years, David, his dad, had been on the throne in Israel. They never lost a fight. They were the world power. He had the best teachers in the world. From an early age of 3 or 5, he was learning the multiple languages. He was watching the kingdom operate and unfold underneath of his dad's supervision. The kid was brilliant. He got taught by the best of the best. He was smarter, most likely, than those in this room, more intelligent, and more wealthy than anyone in this room. So who do we want to go to learn about purpose? The wisest man potentially in history. The guy who grew up in the palace watching it all unfold. And here's a fun fact about Solomon. For the 40 years that he was king over Israel, guess how many years of peace they had? 40 years. For 40 straight years, there was peace under his supervision. What does a leader do? You want to talk about leadership? I would say if you don't have any battles, you're a pretty good leader. 40 straight years of just prosperity in Israel under Solomon's supervision. And yet Solomon poses the question that I just posed to you. He pretty much said, what is your purpose? Check this out. This is verse 2. He says, vanity of vanity, says the preachers, everything is vanity. Meaningless, meaningless, everything is meaningless. I said it was depressing, right? I said you're going to, don't read it because you're going to cry and then quit your job and then just drop out. Everything Solomon concludes is this: it's pointless. I got a great job, it's pointless. I got a great family, pointless. Okay, I've got this great body. Really pointless. Pointless. Everything is pointless. Why does Solomon have the freedom to say that? Well, here's why. Chapter 2 of Ecclesiastes, Solomon starts to tell us about his childhood. Check this out. Ecclesiastes chapter 2. I explored with my mind how to stimulate my body with wine while my mind was guiding me wisely, and how to take hold of folly until I could see what good there was for the sons of men to do under heaven the few years of their lives. Solomon hit the party scene pretty hard. Here's what happened. If you read 1 Kings early in the Old Testament, and you read about the kind of parties that Solomon had, there was 15 to 20,000 people that would come to Solomon's parties. Now, don't get me wrong, last night was awesome. But last night was child's play compared to what Solomon did on a night-to-night basis. Oh, cool, you had 100 people at your house? Sweet. 15,000? No big deal. Right? He sought out to find, the meaning of life. What is the meaning of life? So he started throwing parties. Like at this point in his life, he's the young millionaire kid who kind of grew up with everything handed to him. And he starts to, maybe it's just through fun. Let's just have fun. Those of us who are old enough in the room right now, think college. Think what you did in college, the first few semesters of college. I'm just going to let loose and just have fun. And then you're like, oh, that was miserable. Should never have done that, right? I have regret. He hit rock bottom. The party life was not good enough. 15 to 20,000 people. Again, he was chasing the carrot. And if you throw a party, if you even have 100 people over at your house, that's awesome. You get pumped about it. Man, I was the deal last night. I hosted this party. I'm going to do it next weekend. So you host a party next weekend. Next thing you know, man, everyone knows me, man. I'm the guy that throws the party. I'm the CEO. I'm the man. You know what I mean? And then guess what happens? It gets old. Because it's chasing a carrot that you can never obtain. It's chasing ultimate satisfaction that you could never attain. So Solomon moves on. He moves on from the party scene. He says, I enlarged my works. I built houses for myself. Yeah, you don't say he built houses for himself. Check this out. The temple in Israel took 7 years to build. Solomon's house took 14 years to build. We were in a nice house last night, and there's a lot of nice houses around the state of Mississippi. That didn't take 14 years to build. It was huge. And if you've ever built a home, if you've ever been a first-time owner of anything, you know the sense of fulfillment and satisfaction that comes from that. You just finished it. I designed that. I get to put my own little handiwork in that. And he designed his own house. 14 years. And guess what? He didn't just build a house for himself. The Bible tells us later on, he built a house for every single one of his wives. If you know Solomon's situation, he had 1,000 of them. He built 1,000 homes for his wives, in addition to his 14-year home that he built. And guess what? It wasn't good enough. Because I imagine you built that, it took you 14 years to build the house. Then you kick back and you're sitting over, you're overlooking everything. You're overlooking your kingdom. What next? I just built this home. I was chasing the carrot. It left me empty. He said next, I planted vineyards for myself. I made gardens and parks for myself. I planted them with all kinds of fruit trees. Yeah, he didn't just plant gardens and vineyards. He planted 900-acre forests for fun. I know we got some women in here who like to perfect your little garden out back, and I'm sure it's real beautiful. But as always, Solomon trumped you. He's like, cool garden. I just built a forest. 900 acres, get some. If you go to Israel today, there's what's known as the pools of Solomon that are still in Jerusalem. A sign of the leftovers is the kind of work that Solomon was doing. Stuff way beyond his time. Built gardens and vineyards. And they got old. I made ponds of water for myself from which to irrigate. I bought male and female slaves. I had homeborn slaves. And I possessed flocks and herds larger of all those who preceded me in Jerusalem. I did it bigger and better than all of you did. I had slaves who had slaves who had slaves who had slaves. I never even chewed my food up. You know what I mean? I just kicked back and chilled, and they did it for me. Solomon's chasing the carrot still. And he's at the point where he doesn't even do anything. He says, I'm not happy. I'm miserable, in fact. Also, I collected for myself silver and gold and treasure and kings and provinces. I provided for myself male and female singers. Yeah, Solomon, when you all like a song, you go to iTunes and download the song. Solomon's like, I'll buy the band. Yeah, I got you. I bought you, man. You're over at my house now, okay? As always, he's pursuing and doing better and better. He concludes that section with this. And then finally, I decided to go for women. He had 1,000 wives, 300 wives, 700 concubines. He had what he wanted whenever he wanted it. And at the end of the day, he says, vanity of vanity, everything is vanity. Why did I do it? Why? He's asking himself the purpose question. You're starting to think to yourself, why are we breaking down Solomon's life? Solomon was a leader. You're a leader. My biggest fear amongst leaders is that you get burned out chasing the carrot. You get burned out chasing the ultimate satisfaction that you're never gonna obtain. And it's a miserable feeling. Can you imagine if you had like this sales quota and you chase it and you chase it and you chase it and you get it? What next? Well, you gotta set it higher. We gotta chase it and chase it and chase it. And then what? I've got more money than I'm good. I've got a nice home, I'm good. What's the purpose of it all? Going back to chapter 1, these are the 3 verses that they smacked me across the face. As a young man, they smacked me across the face. What advantage does man have in all his work, which he does under the sun? A generation goes, a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets, and then it returns to its house again. Here's what he's saying. There was a generation of successful people before me. There's going to be a generation of successful people after me, and no one remembers any of them. That's depressing. That's depressing. Okay. Solomon's the king of it. He is the modern day spectacle. He's more popular and more famous than we've ever been. And he's looking at me, he's like, yeah, there's been famous men before me. There's going to be famous men after me, and no one remembers them. Isn't that weird? I mean, think about it. When y'all wake up this morning, did you set your mind on King Solomon? No. You probably didn't even know about King Solomon, some of y'all. And yet at one time he was the deal. And yet he's forgotten about. I started thinking to myself as a young man, why do I work so hard? Because I want to be known, I guess. Well, people have been working hard for thousands of years, and they're forgotten about. Oh, that's depressing. Right? Yeah, I want to be a successful FCA guy one day. I want to be a successful pastor one day. You want to be successful business people that do well in the company. Cool. There's been thousands of people with your same giftings, your same talents, your same abilities, and they're forgotten about. Oh, that's what started going through my mind when I read the passage. I almost wanted to cry. I just wanted to why am I here? I'm done with this. Forget this. As a leader, you got to know why you do what you do, or else you're just like everyone else. You're just like every other company. You're just like every other up-and-coming, inspirational, motivational young guy. You're just like the rest of them. And guess what? They get burned out, their character suffers, their priority suffers, and they're forgotten about if you're not careful. Last 2 verses I'll read is this. That which has been is that which will always be. That which is done under the sun is nothing new. Is there anything of which one might say, see, look, this is new? No, it already existed for ages before us. Think about it. You can't really create something that someone else hasn't even thought about already. I can't imagine Solomon creating this financial piece. He's like, look what I just did. And someone's like, oh yeah, your dad did that a while ago. Oh, crap. It doesn't matter. Someone's already thought about it. They've already invented it. And if they already haven't, they're going to perfect what you did come up with. Here's where my mind went with this. I'm a sports fanatic, right? I love sports. There's a game that I guess my generation would play. It's called Heads Up. There's an app on your cell phone there's a word comes on the phone. You hold the phone to your forehead, and everyone else in the crowd gives you clues. And you got to guess from their context clues who the person is. Category was sports. I'm fixing to dominate sports category. I can run the table on sports, right? First name that comes up was Sandy Koufax. Something like Sandy Koufax. Greatest left-handed pitcher of all time. Los Angeles Dodgers. 4 no-hitters, 4 Cy Youngs, whatever. He's the man. I started saying all these things, and the guy was like, I have no idea who you're talking about. I was like, I wanted to hit him in the face. I'm like, you don't know Sandy Koufax. So the way the game is played is if you don't know the answer, you flip the phone up and the next thing comes up. I'm like, you idiot. Okay, whatever. Next one up. Terry Bradshaw. I'm like, Pittsburgh Steelers, 6-time Super Bowl champions, best franchise in sports history. Again, if you want to argue that or debate that, email me. I will welcome the challenge. Pittsburgh Steelers, greatest franchise ever. Terry Bradshaw, 4 Super Bowl rings. The man. Never heard of him. I was like, so you got me kidding. You don't know Sandy Koufax or Terry Bradshaw. And guess what? When they played their sport, they were the most dominant sports figure of their era. And they're forgotten about. And that sunk in. I'm like, why are we chasing the carrot? Why are we pursuing all of these things if we're going to be forgotten about? That hurts. Because you're told in the American dream, if you work this hard, you will be known. If you set the bar here and you obtain the bar, you're the deal. You can accomplish whatever you set your mind to. And we chase it, we go after it, and we fill the void for about 2 months. And we got to replace the void because it gets bigger. And as leaders, if you do that, your company will fall apart in a heartbeat. If you're chasing something that you will never obtain, you're going to run your business into the ground. You're going to run your family into the ground. You're going to run your life into the ground. All great leaders across history have understood their purpose. Martin Luther King in the 60s, he knew his purpose. When he woke up in the morning, it was for racial reconciliation. He said, I have a dream. Here's what he was saying. I've got my purpose. This is what God put me on this earth to do, is to get this thing figured out. Someone's got to stand up and do it. I'm going to lock my eyes on that purpose. And he set out with a vengeance. We remember Martin Luther King because of his purpose that he had. He was a great leader because he knew his purpose. Billy Graham led United States-wide revivals. I saw a picture of Times Square. I believe it was also from the 60s. Times Square with 100,000 people in Times Square just to hear Billy Graham speak because he knew his purpose. He said, I've got a vision for life transformation that only happens through Jesus Christ. And I'm going to push through that. That is my goal. That's my vision. That's my dream. He knew his purpose when he woke up in the morning each morning. George Washington led the United States, was the central figure in the early years of the United States independence. He woke up, he's the only president to actually go into battle with his troops. Talk about a man. President of the United States, yeah, I'll go to battle with you. He knew his purpose. And he locked his eyes on it. With Martin Luther King, Billy Graham, George Washington, their purposes were not something you could strip from them. Martin Luther King took a bullet. Billy Graham received, for years, criticism. George Washington, it was tough. You kind of read some of his story, lived a tough life. And yes, he was a well-known figure, but lived a tough life. And yet, you can't take purpose from a tough life. You can't take purpose away from a bullet because purpose cannot be taken from you. You might ask, well, Jimmy, then what is the purpose? You're talking about purpose. What is the purpose? Let's ask Solomon. You know what I mean? Like, Solomon's the deal. He goes on for 12 chapters saying, oh, that's your purpose? It's meaningless. That's your purpose? It's pointless. Oh, you want to be known? You're going to be forgotten. Don't worry about it. So what is the purpose? I will tell you my purpose. I'm going to let you have to handle your purpose on your own. But here's what Solomon said in the very last chapter of Ecclesiastes, the very last verse in Ecclesiastes. It's almost like he's just kind of like teasing you for 12 chapters, and you read through this miserable poetry. He concludes chapter 12 with describing the death process. He basically says, hey, there's going to be a day when it's going to be miserable for you to wake up and get out of bed. Your teeth are going to fall out, like your hair's growing out of your ears, you're shriveling. It's an ugly thing. It's ugly. You're going to be ugly one day, okay? You have a great body now, you're going to be ugly one day. It's going to suck to wake up out of bed one morning. Thanks, Solomon. Can't wait for that. You know? So what's my purpose, Solomon? Why am I here? Why are you such a worker that you are? Why one life? Why the husband? Why the wife that you are? He said there's only one answer. The conclusion, when all has been heard, is this: fear God and keep His commandments, because this applies to every person. For God will bring every act to judgment, everything which is hidden, whether it's good or evil. Here's what Solomon's saying, and here's what I will say. My purpose in life is this: it's to let my life be a reflection of Jesus Christ. From the words that come out of my mouth to my business deals behind closed doors, my purpose is Jesus Christ. And you can't take that away from me. I could have a car wreck tomorrow and be paralyzed the rest of my life. Guess what? My purpose doesn't change. My purpose does not hinge around my health and performance. I could lose my voice tomorrow and not be able to speak for 3 years. My purpose does not change because my purpose is not wrapped around my ability to speak. You could lose a job. You could have a terrible month in business. If Jesus Christ is your purpose, it doesn't matter. What I have found in this pursuit of ultimate satisfaction is that most of the time our purpose hinges around the concept of happiness. What makes you happy? My generation sadly coined the phrase YOLO. You only live once. Essentially, live in the moment. Do what makes you happy. If the job makes you happy, stay in it as long as it makes you happy. If your physique makes you happy, work out so you stay happy. If the girl makes you happy, date her. If she doesn't make you happy, break up with her. Our purpose is usually wrapped around the concept of happiness. And if you wake up every day striving to be the top sales agent because it makes you happy, guess what? It's going to last about 3 years. You're going to get burned out. You're going to lose track of your priorities. And you're done. Happiness cannot be the deciding factor in your purpose. Solomon would say, Jesus Christ is the only answer to that. That's the purpose I abide myself under. I love what it says in the last verse. That which is hidden will one day be brought face to face with the Lord. Guess what? My purpose stays turned on even when it's just me in the room. I know as workers sometimes it's easy when boss is out of the office for a day, we kind of slack on the job, right? She's like, well, boss ain't here. Jesus is. If he's my purpose, I don't answer to a boss, I answer to Jesus Christ. My work ethic doesn't hinge around whether a boss is around. My work ethic and my integrity does not hinge around whether I'm at a hotel and I can just do whatever I want to. Jesus Christ is my purpose. One day the things that are hidden will be brought to light. So I can ask you now in confidence, what is your purpose? Why do you do what you do? Why one life? Why are you the husband that you are? Why are you the kind of worker that you are? And if you have to answer that question with anything that has no foundation, we might need to talk. You've got great people around this business. I said this at the beginning, they care more about your character than they do about the kind of work that you produce. Because character leads to the work ethic. Y'all tracking with that? Please, 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 evaluate your purpose. I'll say this last thing before I leave. My biggest fear amongst athletes, my biggest fear amongst businessmen is that we've got a lot of skilled and gifted people who are using their skills and their gifts for their own purpose. And it's hinging around the happiness. Hey, the paycheck makes me happy. Hey, this gives me a sense of fulfillment. It makes me happy. The job makes me happy. There's a day when happiness doesn't exist. And on that day, if you have a weak foundation, your life falls apart real quick. But I will challenge you with this. Jesus Christ is the foundation that never changes. He's consistent. He's there with me on the bad days, on the good days. Even on my selfish days when I wake up not knowing what I'm doing, His grace is so sufficient. What is your purpose? Thank you for letting me speak with y'all today. If you have questions, you want to talk to me, I will stick around for several minutes just to talk to whatever questions you might have. Thank you for Scotty for reaching out to me. Thank you, David, for kind of coordinating the whole thing. God bless you. Have a great day.